Hey everyone, Boardgame Brody here with Meeple Mountain. I have a new prototype copy of Junk Drawer. It's a tile-laying Tetris-style game brought to us by Winsmith Games. I think everyone has a junk drawer somewhere in their house. Some might be more exciting to sort through than others, and some might be more organized than others, but check out mine here. Well, that's exactly what you're going to encounter in this game as well. Messy and organized drawers with random items. And before we get into this game, I would just like to ask you to like this video and more importantly, subscribe to the channel. It's something super easy for you to do and it really helps us out. So here is the game all set up on the table. Everyone has their own player board and a set of 21 unique items. This board is called the goal board, but it has 4 ways that you will score each of your drawers or these quadrants on your player board. So this one matches red, it will score this area, blue matches this one, and so on with the green and the purple. These are the item cards. There are 21, so each one matches a tile that each player has. As the game goes on, you will be adding tiles to each quadrant until you have a turn where you are unable to add an item to one of your active quadrants. Each quadrant is then scored according to the goal card for that quadrant, and whoever has the most points at the end wins the game. So it's a pretty simple and straightforward game, but the catch is this. You will have 4 quadrants and each round consists of placing out 4 cards face down. The first item card is flipped over and you will find the matching tile and place it on one of your 4 quadrants. And the next card is then flipped over and you will then need to place that tile on one of the other 3 quadrants. The third card is then narrowed even further, choosing one of the 2 remaining quadrants to put that tile on. And the last card shows the last item that you need to place in that last quadrant that you haven't placed a tile on yet. This happens then again over and over again, adding more and more items onto these quadrants. So first you need to know you don't know all of the 4 items before choosing which one goes where. So your information is limited at the time. You have to make the best decision for the current item, and at the beginning of the round it is easier because you can place any of the 4 items in any of the 4 quadrants, so your options are bigger. But the last card, when it's flipped over, the item is stuck in that last quadrant and you aren't as flexible anymore. Now the game has different goals for each quadrant. Some trying to organize your drawer to fit the most items in there, while others you want to make more spaces with no items because that's how you will score points for that goal card. Others you want to fill in straight rows or columns, and well, there's tons of different goals. While playing the game, if you cannot place an item on any of the available or open quadrants at the time, you are at that point finished organizing for the rest of the game. You're out. This can be good or bad depending on the goals in the game. Other players might still be playing while you're done, and the round continues until all players are finished organizing. Let's check out some of these goal cards to better understand how you might want to go about organizing each of these zones. Maximize covered squares, exactly like the title suggests. You will want to Tetris as many tiles filling in this quadrant as much as possible because you will gain 1 point for each covered square. This one is the opposite and much harder to do. Maximize empty squares. So you will be strategically placing the tiles so that others won't fit and you have empty squares left over. Each empty square is worth 1 point. Next is empty center and corner squares. Easy to do. When you leave those spaces open, you will score 3 points for each. Your max would be 15 points total. This one is points for covered perimeter squares. So place all or as many tiles on the perimeter, covering up as many squares as possible, and each one you do so will grant you 1 point each. The opposite can be a goal as well. Points for each empty perimeter square. You will strategically place tiles, leaving the perimeters uncovered as much as possible, and you'll score 1 point for each uncovered square. The last easy goal I'm going to go over is maximize the number of objects. The smaller the tiles, maybe the better. But this one you want to be able to place as many tiles as possible, and you will score 4 points per object or per tile. Okay, you want to hear some of the medium level goals because they get harder if you choose to put them on the game. This one, maximize size of second largest gap. So make at least 2 big groups and try to get them both really big. Only the second largest one will count as points. Maximize number of object sizes because you get 4 points for each unique sized object, so different sized tiles. Maximize size of completed rectangle. You'll Tetris tiles together to score 1 point for each squares that you covered that forms a rectangle. Covered rows and columns, you will score 4 points for each row and column that you have filled all the way in with tiles. You'll need to Tetris those together as well in that goal. Maximize size of largest gap. You gain 2 points for each empty square. Rows and columns not covered. This one, you want to leave small gaps as much as you can, or even large ones if possible. 2 points for each row or column uncovered. Now you want to see some difficult ones? Well, maximize the number of isolated objects. 4 points per object that is isolated. This one is exactly 2 covered squares per row and column. You'll gain 3 points for each row or column that does that. Gaps with 3 empty squares. You'll score 4 points for each of these gaps. And that should give you an idea of what these goals are all about. Some easy and some hard. Of course, when you are playing with 4 of them and managing tiles to place in each of your quadrants, things can get a little more complex. Once all players come to the point where they are done organizing, which again happens when you can't add a tile to one of your available boards or quadrants, then you are done. All players count up their points and the player with the most points wins. So this is a tile placement Tetris-like game with a twist that you are managing 4 different quadrants, all with different goals, and you don't have a heads up like in Tetris as to what tiles are next. It goes 1 card showing the tile that you need to add at a time. After you place it on the board, then the next one goes, and you don't know what is in the future. So that last tile might be the worst tile to place on that last board, but you didn't really know that until it was time to place it. It becomes a little of a balancing act between your boards, or maybe you focus on getting a lot more points on one over the others. Like, don't worry about one of the goals and focus on all the others. But maximizing your points by placing the best on all 4 boards will give you the most points. The game makes sense to everyone, so it's easy to teach and play. I mean, everyone knows Tetris, but it's just a little more challenging as you're playing 4 Tetris games all at the same time, but different goals in each of them. The game is quick, its scores tend to be very tight, and although the game doesn't do anything super special, as it includes mechanics used in many games out there, the way that they organize it makes it just what you want. Without going too long, the game is exactly what it is. So if you like what I've said, you'll probably like this game. If you don't think that I've explained what I've explained sounds fun, then you'll probably not like this game. The game doesn't hide anything. So collect junk with your family and friends in Junk Drawer, a family tile laying game by Winsmith Games. Again, this is Board Game Brody. I hope you enjoyed this video. Stick around and check out some other board game reviews to see what you might want to get to the table.